On the night of my birthday, instead of hearing "Happy Birthday," my mother leaned across the table and announced, loud enough for every fork to pause midair, "Sell your house and give the money to your sister's baby fund. She needs it more than you. No congratulations on buying a home by myself. No acknowledgement of years of sacrifice. Just a public demand that I hand over everything I had worked for." The table went silent for half a second, then erupted. My cousins whispered and chuckled like it was prime-time entertainment. My father sat back with a grin that suggested he thought this was brilliant advice. My sister's mascara ran just enough to look like tragedy painted on her face as she dabbed delicately at her eyes. I smiled, lifted my glass, and kept my voice steady. Too steady, maybe. I unlocked my phone and said, "Speaking of money, the bank just sent me an update. Want to hear it?" The clink of silverware against porcelain sounded like gunfire. For as long as I could remember, I'd been cast as a responsible one, which, in family terms, meant the one expected to bankroll everyone else's mistakes. My younger sister, Emily, had always been a fragile one, the poor thing who somehow burned through every paycheck she ever touched. She charmed people easily, partied through her 20s, hopped on planes for Instagram-worthy vacations with men who couldn't hold jobs, and failed her way through one idea after another. And still, my parents adored her. Meanwhile, I worked 2 jobs through college. I skipped luxuries, skipped trips, skipped relationships even, just to save every dollar. That house wasn't just shelter. It was proof that my effort meant something. There had been warning signs. My mom once hinted that I should co-sign Emily's car loan. My dad once joked about sharing my bonus. Each time I refused, I was labeled cold. When my mother texted me the night before my birthday saying, "Don't be stubborn tomorrow. Your sister needs you," I knew something big was coming. But I wasn't going to walk into their ambush unprepared. 2 weeks earlier, I had already met with my banker. I transferred assets, changed ownership, and placed the house in a trust under my name alone. No one could touch it without wading through legal walls taller than the roof itself. That night, as I walked past my home on the way to dinner, I touched the key hanging on my chain. It reminded me what was at stake. Not just a house, but every sacrifice that had built it. Back at the table, all eyes were fixed on me. Emily sniffled under the chandelier's glow. I held my phone higher and read slowly. Wire transfer confirmed. House fund secured. Trust finalized. Silence. Electric. Heavy silence. Emily blinked. "What trust?" "The one you're not part of," I replied sweetly, raising my glass and taking a sip. You could almost hear jaws hitting the table. My aunt's mouth dropped open. My dad's confident smile faltered. My mom's face turned blotchy red. And suddenly, all those cousins who'd been giggling went quiet, staring down at their glasses like extras in a courtroom drama. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I let the silence speak for me. Of course, it didn't end there. At 11:47 p.m., my mom called, her voice sharp enough to cut stone. "How could you embarrass us like that?" I yawned and said, "Funny, I was wondering the same thing about you." The next morning, Emily texted, "It's not fair. Family helps each other." I wrote back, "Family doesn't ambush someone at their own birthday dinner." Later, my dad tried guilt. "Your sister has been through so much." "Yes," I said, "and most of it financed by me." Click. Every conversation ended the same. Them furious, me calm. A few days later, Emily tried to storm into my house. She pounded on the door, shouting, "You don't deserve this. You're heartless." But her key didn't work. I had already changed the locks. She kicked the door and screamed about taking me to court. The police arrived, thanks to a thoughtful neighbor. They asked whose name was on the deed. I calmly handed them the trust papers. The officer skimmed, raised his brows, and told her, "Ma'am, you have no claim here." The meltdown that followed could have won an award. Tears, wails, a dramatic collapse in the driveway. I stood inside, coffee in hand, watching the scene unfold like a spectator at a play. That was the moment the balance shifted. For the first time, I wasn't the one cornered. The family group chat hasn't been lively since. My phone barely rings anymore. And honestly, that silence feels like peace. The cake from that night never left the kitchen. But my house? Still mine. Every wall and floorboard proof that my sacrifices weren't wasted. Proof that I'd finally set a boundary that couldn't be bulldozed. And I don't hate them. Not even Emily. What I feel now is lighter, freer. Because when they tried to trap me, they showed me the truth. Love in my family had always come with a price tag. And I finally stopped paying. So if anyone asks what I got for my birthday that year, the answer isn't cake or gifts. I got freedom, and it was worth every single drop fork.